Hi, my name is Gene Monterastelli, and the video you are about to watch is a recording from the 24 Hours of Tapping, which is an event that is held annually to support the Peaceful Heart Network. If you appreciate or learn anything from this video, the easiest way for you to say thank you is to support the work of the Peaceful Heart Network, who has worked with over 300,000 migrants, immigrants, prisoners, folks in disaster areas by bringing tapping to them. As you watch the video, across the bottom, you will see a link where you can support their amazing work. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. Anne-Marie is a recovery coach, a spiritual companion, and a founder of Thirsty for Wonder. She helps people reconnect with their body's creativity and inner wisdom through sobriety and seasonal healing. She is the creator of the Wellspring, a Celtic Recovery Journey, and believes recovery is a radical act of self-love and liberation. Please welcome to our virtual stage, Anne-Marie Cribbin. Hello, my friend.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing? It is so good to see you. We're hanging in there. I am well caffeinated. The team filled me up with a schmear and some lox and a bagel, so I'm rip roaring and ready to go for at least another 3 hours. So
I'm so glad. I've got my emotional support beverage, and
excellent.
Yeah, and I fell asleep with the live stream on last night, so I got to tune into a couple last night. So Lindsay and oh gosh, I'm blanking on her name, but she was talking about generational trauma, and I was just like
Naomi.
This. Yes, Naomi. I was just like this on the screen, like letting it all seep in. It was so good. And at some point, I think I woke up to a conversation about quantum physics or something like that.
That has been sprinkled in and out of the things that we've been navigating our through. As we were doing
I'm gonna go back to sleep through that because I don't understand any of that.
Anyway,
I'm so glad to be here, and shout out to Peaceful Heart Network and to you and to your whole team for organizing this. And it's just the most beautiful thing.
Yeah, we're having a good time. We have a great community here, and I'm so glad I get to share you with this particular community. So the question that I've been starting everybody out with, and I know the answer to this, but I would love for you to share this with our community who doesn't know you. Like, recovery is a radical act of self-compassion. Like, just unpack that title, and then we can have a deeper conversation of the ramifications of what that looks like as we navigate our way through all of that. Like, what does that mean to you? Because I know you love words, and you so carefully choose the words you use in your creation. Talk to me about just that as a jumping off point.
Yeah, thanks. It's the very simple, short elevator pitch answer to that is I don't believe that we should feel punished for something that we struggle with. Right. Yeah. I just don't believe that. In the core of who I am, I'm like, why? Like, life is hard. Why are we making this thing around sobriety and recovery? Like, why does it have to be harder? I just don't believe that it should feel like a punishment to desire liberation.
Yeah.
That's the really short answer. I mean, the longer answer of that is, I'm talking about recovery today, and I'm talking about recovery from alcohol specifically because that's my story.
Yep.
I coach beyond that, right? But that's my story, and that's the majority of the work that I do is around sobriety. And what I found for myself was, when I really, really got serious about what alcohol was doing in my life, and I was a gray area drinker, and 75 million Americans fall into the category of gray area drinking, right? And that is, our drinking doesn't look like what alcoholism, and that's a word that I don't use, is portrayed on TV. Like, I wasn't drinking out of a brown paper bag or at 9 o'clock in the morning, any of those things. My drinking looked a lot like the social norms of my life. But there was an inherent knowing in me that it was not aligned with who I wanted to be or how I wanted to move through the world. But when I started to pull that out of the ether and have that land in my body and my heart about making some change, the places that I went to look for support on how to do this differently and how to let go of this thing all felt like what I was drinking at. Like, it was filled with rigidity and shame and performance and perfection. And it was like, well, wait a minute. I feel the same in these spaces that I do when I'm navigating a world that is hard for a person like me to move through it. Somebody, an Enneagram 4. an INFJ, emotionally sensitive, right? Deeply caring, like all of
Yeah.
these things, quirky sense of humor, like whatever it is, right? Like I have a hard time moving in these spaces, and I find myself drinking at these things, right, in order to
Mhm.
perform a life. And then in the spaces where I was going to seek help, the what I was receiving was, well, you have to achieve X, Y, and Z to do this correctly. And I was
Yeah.
like, something does not match up here. There has to be a different approach to this. There has to
Yeah.
be. And what I kind of, landed on myself and eventually, found a recovery space online for myself was drinking was leading me more and more into isolation. It was just the comfortable thing to do at the end of a hard day of navigating the world, was to come home and cook dinner and open a bottle of wine and have a couple of glasses of wine at night and retreat and be in isolation. But the rules and the rigidity I was finding in those places was doing the same thing, right? That was leading to isolation too. When I finally started to flip the script on that and get curious, and what I share with my clients is like, this gets to be a really exciting adventure where you're the anthropologist of your own life, right? Like all the
Yeah.
Nancy Drew fans get excited, get your little sleuth hat out, right? And start doing some investigative work. And it just opens the door to curiosity, and curiosity is compassion.
Yeah.
Curiosity is compassion, right? And it just turns the dial down on the inner critic, and it just is the yellow brick road, like, comes right at your feet, right? And it's just the most amazing thing. And so it's just a shift.
And I love the way you're talking about curiosity. For me, all it takes is for me to tilt my head, raise an eyebrow, and go, huh.
Yeah.
And like instantly, my entire energy changes from that posture, from just going, huh. It's just like you said, it just opens, it decompresses. I am
Mhm.
stepping away from right and wrong. I am getting out of the black and white of what is going on in my subconscious mind
Yeah.
and how I keep myself safe. It's like, it is beautiful how we are dovetailing out of that conversation that we just had about John
Mhm.
D, and being curious as we're stepping into this, to be able to take that exact thing into a tangible place in what you're talking about. And so, like, I love leading with that sense of curiosity that leads to compassion, because,
Yeah.
because in my own life, like, it is easiest for me to extend compassion to myself if I expand the canvas of context large enough to see what I'm evaluating
Mhm.
beyond just the act. It's not,
Yeah.
this is what happened, but this is what happened when I was poorly resourced, after I forgot to eat lunch, and somebody ate my last cookie at work. Like all of those things become compounding. And of course, because I'm in this emotional diminished resource state that happens, that, compassion is not going, oh, you get a pass. Compassion is going, this is everything that was going on in that particular moment. And the only way that I can expand the canvas large enough for me to understand that context is for me to have a sense of curiosity, to go,
Yeah.
there's something beyond the thought, the action, the belief, the whatever happened in that moment in time.
Right. And when you take something like sobriety and recovery, right, and put it in the context of what you just said, like it's amplified even more. I mean, we're really, really conditioned for a before and after experience when it comes to
Yeah.
recovery and sobriety, right? There's my life when I was a screw up alcoholic mess, and here's my life later, right?
Right.
The reality, of course, you and I know, and your intelligent, incredible audience and practitioners know, that our human experience is lived in the middle of that. Right?
Yeah.
It's lived
Yeah.
in the messy middle, right? We're rarely the before and after. We're always becoming. And so why doesn't our experience and our language reflect that, right? Like, why did, like, the curiosity allows us to navigate the middle, with a sense of beauty and a sense of wonder and the sense of compassion. I wrote like a whole, like, 20-page essay on Oprah Winfrey back in the 80s and 90s with her before and afters,
Right.
like an ambush makeover, right?
Yeah.
And how, like, we just wait with bated breath for the end result and the transformation.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful, wonderful thing, right? But we really, really need to talk about the messiness of the middle, and how do we meet ourselves there? Because that is the daily reality, right? Like I've been in recovery, I've been sober for 7 years, but my recovery is constantly evolving. If I only look at my 7th year of recovery, like
Right.
I'm missing the bigger picture, and I'm missing more opportunities to learn and to grow and right, all of those things.
And
Yeah.
I think part of that is that nuance is costly. And what I mean by that is it like I think part of the reason why we like the moment that we live is so galvanizing is that we are all stretched so thin that we have turned into Nero with a thumb up or a thumb down with every single thing that we engage. And this before and after is not a binary that is here, but it's a beginning and an end, and it's this binary piece. And I know your love of story. We share this absolutely amazing love of story. Very few of the stories do I love because of the ending.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, the goal is the friends we made along the way, and that has become this silly cliche. But the reality is, it's the journey that we're traveling on as we're navigating this particular thing. And so, to be in that messy middle requires so much more energy. And when I say energy, like literally I am spending more energy on my brain because that is the only way that I can get to nuance, be able to engage with nuance.
Mhm.
Because if it's right, if it's wrong, if it's good, if it's bad, it's the beginning, it's the end, that takes so little energy. And if I'm exhausted, or if I am trying to extend nuance to something that is already so draining
Yeah.
because it is a struggle, it is a burden, it is a history, it is a whatever that thing
Mhm.
is. I am now in something that is diminishing my resource state in this particular moment to be a fully actualized human in the way that I want to. Now I'm asking myself, okay, great. Now in that resource diminished state, go spend a lot of energy so that you can mech around in the nuance to figure out what is going
Right.
on. And like it is the least likely place for me to be able to naturally do that particular thing.
Yeah.
And so, and like it's not a very good story.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Nuance is not a, and we are in we've landed more and more in this like social media curated way that we
Mhm.
express our life, that there's not nuance inside of that either. It's
Yeah.
the good picture. It's the what am I cropping out so I can get the exact right thing and that sort of stuff. And boy, does it feel like the deck is stacked against us when we're trying to engage in an honest, healthy way so I can continue to evolve and grow and transform like you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the curation, right? To like that is it's the performance of a curated life. That's the
Yeah.
messaging that we're getting, and what, myself and a lot of my clients really come to that realization when we can offer a space, a soft place to land around compassion. You have the room to kind of unpack that and get there and get to that understanding,
Yeah.
right? And to like feel it in your body of like, oh, that's what this has been. That's
Yeah.
what this feeling is. That's the thing that I'm drinking at, is like I'm being required to show up and perform in lots of different aspects of my life, and I don't want to perform anymore. Well, what is a compassionate way to live an authentic life look like, right? Let's start with there. Let's start with that conversation. A lot of my clients are very, very surprised when they come into a coaching relationship with me that many times, like the first month of coaching, I don't ask them about alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm not coaching them on how to not have their next drink. That's
Yeah.
not the conversation that we're starting with, right? I never ask my clients. I have clients who check in with me about accountability
Right.
around, I was sober today. I've never asked a client, did you drink today?
Right.
Right? That's not the conversation that we're having, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
how did you offer kindness to yourself today, right?
Yeah.
What did expansion look like for you in your day today? What did softness look like for you in your day to day? And this
Yeah.
is like, for me too, it was like learning of like a foreign language at first. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean by that? Like,
Right. Yeah.
Could you please give me 5,000 examples of what that might look like? Because I
That's
don't
right.
know
Or
how to
or
do
or
that.
at least make it a multiple choice test so I can
Right.
navigate my way through it. And it doesn't have to be ABC. It can be turquoise, green, mauve, just distill it down towards making some choices as we're navigating this particular thing. Because
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and I think like one of the things that I appreciate just in your disposition and your conversation with this is, and I've mentioned this a couple of times just because it's coming up, is, you know, Bob Rice, our friend Bob Rice, wrote a song in the late 90s, early aughts that was called Unfinished.
Mhm.
And it was him wrestling with the fact that that was going to be the reality of his lived experience, and reckoning and not surrendering to that, not saying I am waving a white flag and boy, I might as well not even try because I am always going to be unfinished, but recognizing, even in the face of recognizing the fact that I'm probably going to, like, I am not buying hats that has extra room so that when the little bulb of enlightenment comes popping out of the top of my head, there is room under the hat. Like, I'm recognizing that I am unfinished in that particular space as well. But I love how you're giving us permission to do that and still be in process and be in the moment and be in discovery and be in curiosities. We're engaging with what that means, not as a
Mhm.
destination, but what does it mean right now as I'm engaging with that particular piece of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I have permission to share from a couple of clients that am working with or have worked with. And one of my favorite people that I've ever worked with in recovery coaching is a woman who's in her mid 80s and was getting sober for the first time in her
Yeah.
mid 80s. And very specifically, and when I talk to people initially, I'm like, we talk about the goal, right? And a lot
Mhm.
of people will say, well, it's the goal is sobriety. I want to be
Yeah.
sober. I want to be sober. And then obviously we continue the conversation and get down to like, what is it like? What's the feeling you want to have, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you want to move through the world? And she very, very, like, I still cry when I think about it. And she's like, I want to be present to my own death. I want to
Wow.
be present to my own death. And I want to be present to my husband's end of life, right? Her partner of, 60 some years, um, had advanced stages of Alzheimer's. She's like, I want to be present to that. I want to be present to the beauty of that transition. And I just like, I still cry. I still like, I can feel it now.
I
Like,
you
sorry.
know, no, here we go. Hashtag tear tally. You did it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like what a beautiful thing. And like, compassion leads us to talk about not like what's the legacy of our recovery?
Yeah.
What's the legacy of our recovery, right? What's the legacy of our of our self-compassion? Like that's a really big thing to think about. And
Yeah.
that changes lives when we
Yeah.
put it in that framework, right? Like I have been preached to in well-intended, well-meaning recovery spaces that my recovery needs to be about building a life that I don't want to escape from. And that was the hook that I needed in early recovery,
Mhm.
right? As I was learning, like, I'm drinking at all of these things, right? I'm drinking at perfectionism. I'm drinking at the patriarchy. I'm drinking at capitalism. I'm drinking at white supremacy, all the ways this shows up in my day-to-day living. And I want to create this life that I don't want to escape from, right? I want to have a really great social life. I want to like move through the world free in my body, and all of these things are wonderful. But to get to a place where I can say, I really want to build a life that I'm proud to die of,
Yeah.
holy crap. Holy crap, that changes everything. And that only comes from a place of having experienced self-compassion.
Yeah. The the way that showed up for me, or is showing up for me, to say showed up for me implies that I'm done inside of that, is sometime in the last 6 months, I came to this realization that 60 years from now, no one is going to remember my name. Like not even not my work, but literally no one is going. I am not going to be a footnote in history.
Mhm.
Like I am just going to be anonymized out of that particular experience. And that was so liberating.
Mhm.
Like and it's not like, and I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe I've ever been a person who has been clout chasing and that sort of stuff. I take my work seriously. I want to have an impact,
Yeah.
but like letting go. And I can even remember it the first time I said it in one of my classes, and you could literally see faces shuddering on the Zoom screens of like and I was just making a statement of fact. Like it wasn't this thing, but like being able to just go, okay, great. Now all that matters is how I am navigating these moments, and how do I want to show up into those particular things.
Right.
Earlier today, Sejul and she was talking about how her grounding principle is ease. And and Rick Wilkes, we talked about his grounding principle is thrive. Mine's authenticity.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that is the grounding, like that is the place that I want to be operating from. It's like
Yeah.
I'm less concerned about the outcome. I'm more concerned about how authentically am I showing up inside of that particular thing, which liberates me to be in the moment, compassionate with myself as I'm trying to understand what that means. Because like I have a distorted sense of what the authentic gene is. Like even as I'm trying to wrestle with that, there's still some sense of performativeness to that. And much of that performativeness is to me. It's not even like a performative, I'm performing this to the world. It's I am a type of person that,
Yeah.
and trying to liberate myself from that particular space and just
Yeah.
being able to, be fully present in the moment in that particular way.
Right. And my word for that is liberation, right? It's a
Yeah.
synonym to authenticity. The word I use a lot is liberation. And I think, the other thing, given the climate that we live in globally, politically, right, here in the States in particular, I think it's really important to understand too that rigidity and perfectionism don't heal the wounds of a country, right? Like, and we're in a time where it's like we've got a lot of healing that needs to be done. And I know you love Richard Rohr, Father Richard Rohr, and I do
Yeah.
too. And I often think about what he talks about as the sphere of influence, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is that most of us are not called to a life of grandeur and public stage and people knowing our names, right? I
Yeah.
am called to my little reality of the people I encounter in my 125-year-old apartment building and my godkids and my family and my clients, right? My sphere of influence is really,
Yeah.
really small. But the more I show up as a compassionate, liberated human being, invested in my own self-work, my own healing, that absolutely has a ripple effect into the community, into my sphere of
Yeah.
influence. It does, right? Like
Yeah.
me taking the time to do the work of healing myself and really like moving from the world from a foundation, a solid foundation of compassion, right? Which is hard to do.
Yeah.
When I move from that place, like that has a direct effect, a healing effect in the world. And I am overwhelmed by the world and all the stuff that needs to be healed and touched by
Yeah.
healing hands. And I often get in that place of like, what can I do? There's too much to do. And it comes back to, well, I can start with speaking really kindly to myself today.
Yeah.
And then I can speak really, really kindly to the next person I encounter. One of my favorite things to do, you know this about me. One of my favorite things to do is when I'm at Trader Joe's is ask the checkout person, like, how's your day going?
Yeah.
Like not how are you, right?
Yeah.
But like, how's your day going? Like, tell me something about your day, right? And like engage in conversation. And I cannot tell you how many times they will say to me, nobody has ever asked me that before.
Yeah.
Right?
So the rule I have in my neighborhood is if I go into an establishment and I see someone for the third time who works in the establishment, I ask them their name. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in here all the time. And this manifested its way in the most amazing thing. This is almost a decade ago. And she's no longer a barista, and she's this amazing art director. And it's super, super fun to watch her flourishing in the world. But I'm walking down the street and Sarah runs up to me and gives me a hug. And my thought is, I didn't realize we were hugging friends because we had never had a conversation that was not mediated by the counter at the freedom.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
every interaction, but it was like I was my coffee shop that I go to most mornings. One morning I walk in and Dylan just turns to me and he's like, okay, what do you do? Like, what's your deal? You're in here every morning at 6:30 at your computer. What's your deal? But like, because I did exactly that, I'm in here all the time. I don't know your name. I'm really sorry about that. And, and like they know my name or they know my coffee name, 6 1, half a dozen the others. We're navigating that thing. But like, again, those are those simple acts where we are being human and connecting in those really, really profound, simple ways,
Yeah.
and just getting a chance to, and like to get back to why we're gathering over these 24 hours. That's one of the reasons why I just like throw myself into doing this work for the Peaceful Heart Network is they model what you were talking about in all of the work that they do
Yes.
everywhere they go in the world.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's just this, like I mentioned this hours and hours ago, so most of y'all weren't here for it, but like we were doing something and Gunilla taught something and then someone else went up and demonstrated it and she did it differently. And Gunilla turned to me and she goes, oh, I guess that's the way we do it here. It's like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That's just recognizing people where they are as they're engaging with that. And, and it's so
like,
fun. Yeah, go ahead.
Take that one thing that beautiful said, right? Oh, I guess that's the way that we're doing it now. Like, and just applying that back to self, right?
Yeah.
When you've been telling yourself the story over and over and over again around, sobriety and recovery, that like, there's this thing that happens in sobriety, and I just call it day 3 energy, right? And that's anybody who maybe like, I say this too about recovery. I just told a client this last week. I was like, fortunately or unfortunately, the thing that all sober people have in common is that they don't drink. So eventually the behavior actually has to change, right? Like
right.
We can spend, I love spending time in my mind castle, right? And I can overthink and overanalyze and do all the things. But eventually I start to have to apply different behavior to make the change that I want to make, right? There's that. But just that one thing that Gunilla said of like, oh, okay, we're gonna do it this way now. The story in my mind around my own drinking issues was, you're never going to be able to change. You're never going to be able to not do this thing, right? That's the narrative in my head because of childhood stuff and religious stuff and right, like whatever, all the things and
all the things. Yeah.
All the things, and your client base and your audience knows that, and you've been talking about it for 20 hours, all the things, right? So all the things in my own life that it reinforced that belief that like, you're never going to get this. You're never going to be able to do this thing, right?
Yeah.
And for most people, when they're trying to, let's say, have a goal of, I'm going to go a week without drinking, most people, what happens is in that 70-second hour, in that day 3, things start to happen in your body, right?
Yeah.
Like blood sugar is stabilizing and other things are happening, right? Like your serotonin and your dopamine levels are changing and all of these things. Emotionally, things are happening and it fires all of the neural pathways in your brain that say, oh, actually feeling good feels like a death threat. And so we're going to light up all of the neural pathways for you to drink, right? And what happens is one of those neural pathways, obviously, is the old stories that you have.
Yeah.
Right? Of like, I'm never going to be able to do this thing. Look at the way I'm feeling. I'm never going to be able to do this thing. I might as well just go ahead and drink. And I see it over and over and over again. And it was my experience too. Every time I was like, okay, this is it. Dry July. And July 3rd, I'd be like, fuck it. Oh, sorry. I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on here.
We're being human today, Anne-Marie. So you're allowed to be human as we engage with this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. And it's just like, oh, well, I might as well drink, and but like, what if we were able to do that work of like, I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? This is what I'm going to do differently today. I'm just going to question it. Yeah. I'm going to question it. Like, I'm sure you and your audience are familiar with Byron Katie's beautiful work. And she has those 4 questions. I don't know all 4 of them because I only need the first 2.
Yeah.
Right. Is this story like, and so when I get there and I still get there, not around drinking as much, like I don't have that issue anymore, but around other things in my life that I'm trying to change. And those stories creep in. And the different thing that I do, the compassionate thing that I do is I ask myself, is it true? That's her first question. Is it true?
Yeah.
In the moment, I can say, yes, it's true. It's true. I am the worst person in the world. I am the worst person in the world in this moment. And then the second question is it absolutely foolproof? 1000% absolutely true.
Yeah.
Right. And that is enough of a foot into the door of compassion that I can say,
Yeah.
am I the worst person in the world? Am I even the worst person in my family?
Yeah. I am not going to comment and answer that particular question.
Right? No, it's not absolutely true. And like you were saying, like the head tilt, right? It's enough of a shift even in my body, in my countenance, and then the feeling of my body, that it opens up space for me to consider that something else might be true here. Something else might be true, and I can get curious about it.
One of the activities I created for my students this month was, we found a limiting belief that intellectually we understood was not true, but emotionally felt very, very true. And what they then had to do is they then had to write 10 statements that proved the thing that they were saying were true. And they had to be flamboyant and huge and over the top and all of that thing. And by blowing up the giant clown head of the thing, immediately turned it into a farce.
Yeah.
You know, that second question of, is this 100% absolutely true, going, okay, my subconscious mind believes this. I am now going to be the defense attorney for my subconscious mind, and I'm going to throw every possible thing I can at the jury to prove that this is actually true.
Yeah.
And as I keep doing that and I'm saying those reasons out loud, it just defangs the belief, and it defangs the belief, and it defangs the belief. And I'm like, okay, this is actually the place that I'm standing, and I'm engaging with that particular thing.
And it literally changes the language and the way that we're speaking to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So I go from the definitive, I am the worst person in the world, right? The deep belief in that language to, okay, maybe I'm not the worst person in the world. Maybe I'm not, right? Maybe there's another reality here. Maybe I can look at it a different way. And that is like, you know, like language becomes our first point of intervention.
Yeah.
Language becomes our first point of intervention. And that is crucial in understanding the work of sobriety and recovery.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I ruffle a lot of feathers. I recently did a whole workshop for therapists and healers and doctors on this very subject. And I was like, we need to let go of the words addict. We need to let go of the word alcoholic. We need to let go of the word clean, right?
Yeah.
We need to let go of all of those things, because I cannot tell you how many times I have heard a client say, yeah, I really stayed away from the field of recovery or working on this because I Googled, am I an alcoholic? And I didn't meet the standards of that, right? And it takes away our agency to change a relationship with something that is harming us simply because we're not aligned with harming ourselves, right? It takes away our agency.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to enter into a new relationship, a different relationship, if we want to call that abstinence, recovery, whatever we want to call that. We're allowed to do that simply because it's not aligned with who we are. Right. And trying to like meet this criteria. Like I Googled it myself. There was a point where I was just like, I'm drinking 2 glasses of wine every night when I get home from work, but I'm excelling in my job. Right. Like I have friends. I'm not getting a DUI. Like I'm not even drunk every night. Right. Yep. I hate that I do this thing. I hate it. I hate that I feel like I have to do this thing. And so I was like, do I have a drinking problem? I was like, nope, I don't. I'm good.
Yeah.
Let me move on for another 5 years thinking that I'm good when I was silently hating myself every night.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Yeah.
And it's language is so useful except when it is not.
Right.
You know, like I don't know if you remember what was her name? Not Molly Kelly, the other one. She wrote the book Real Love in a Pizza Love World. Mary Beth.
I know that one.
Mary Beth Benacci.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Very bad.
yeah. But just like and like it was such a such a clever way to recognize the way that like these symbols that are words are useful, except the fact that they are insufficient.
Mhm.
It's the reason why like every single class I teach to my students, I lay out the terms that we're going to be using, and I lay out this is the way I'm using these terms. I'm not saying this is the way these terms are defined, but as we have a conversation for the next 90 minutes, I just want you to know this is a placeholder for this idea. This is a placeholder for this idea. I don't care if you use my words, and I don't care if you agree with the placeholder. I'm just trying to communicate in a more effective way because I recognize like contextually we bring our history to those
Yeah.
words as we are doing stuff. I was mentioning it with John D. Like when I'm tapping with someone who's working with me where English is not their native language, oftentimes I encourage them to tap in their native tongue
Mhm.
because it's the exact same word. It means the exact same thing when that happens from language to language. It's not always precise in that way, but it just carries so much with it. And yeah, it's so hard when we are dealing with the messiness of the human experience and we are trying to distill it down into discrete characters that represent an idea as we're trying to navigate something.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's, and again, right, the binary of good and bad, right? And sobriety that looks like not drinking is good and drinking is bad. And we know that it's so much more than that, right?
right?
It's so much more than that. And can we live in the space of curiosity and compassion to understand, right? To understand
Yeah,
why we're choosing the coping mechanism that we're choosing. And actually that, like, again, compassion leads us to understanding that that part of me that chose alcohol specifically as a coping mechanism actually comes from the deepest place of wisdom in my body.
yeah,
Right. I'm listening to the Naomi talk about generational trauma last night. I'm like, we know generational trauma is real. Generational remembering is also real too, right?
yeah,
Generational remembering is real for us as well. An experience that we hold in our body. It's a truth that we hold in our body, right?
yeah,
And so to go back to the origins of medicine from our own cultures and all of that kind of stuff, but getting past the binary of good and bad and getting to a place of neutrality and taking the morality out of
yeah,
drinking, not drinking, right? Both of these things give us information. Drinking
yeah,
gives me information, not drinking gives me information. And I want to make decisions from a place of being the best informed, right? So
yeah,
look at these and say, okay, well, here's what happens here and here. I want to make a decision from feeling good in my body. And so my next right decision is going to come from this place over here of not drinking,
yeah.
right? Because that's where I feel better and has nothing to do with moral code. Nothing
And
to do
and
with code.
and for me, like the way that I try and navigate that is I think of like, and it sounds such an unemotional, dispassionate word, but I don't think it is, but it's functional.
Right.
Like the question is this choice a functional choice to solve the problem that is in front of me in this particular moment?
Yeah.
In some capacity, when we are using alcohol to take care of an emotional thing, it is a functional choice, meaning that it is serving a function. Is it
Yeah.
a healthy functional choice? Is it the highest vibrational good for me functional choice? Those are different questions. But
Right.
again, all of those questions have taken away morality from that
Yeah.
particular thing. It's not an ethical choice. It's a who do I want to be and how do I want to be? And is this thing I am engaging with serving that? And it also becomes difficult when there are a lot of, not all choices, but there are a lot of choices that are either functional short-term choices or functional long-term choices.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of choices that are functional short and long-term choices.
Yeah.
And so as I'm trying to navigate what is going on, consciously, subconsciously, trying to engage with this from a sense of compassion, engaging with this from a sense of habituation from the way I've been conditioned, that's the problem that's trying to be solved. What is the functional choice so I can survive this particular moment?
Right.
And what does survive mean at different points? Sometimes survive is survive, and sometimes survive is evolve, is beauty, is creation, is whatever. And like, there is no one version of survive in those particular things. Like, a number of years ago, I took Maslow's hierarchy of needs and I turned it 45 degrees and I just stuck it on the side of a brain and kind of went, oh, look at that. Unconscious brain, bottom, conscious brain, top. Oh, and I think from here to there. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Well, the choices that I'm making and why they are being chosen functionally as I'm engaging with that.
Yeah, and choosing to function, it can be a really compassionate response when dysfunction is the other choice, right? Or harm.
Yeah.
Right? Or harm is the other choice. In fact, like this Wednesday, I have a community email that goes out on Wednesdays, and the title of the one coming out this Wednesday is called Survival Yogurt. And I'm in a bout of horrific insomnia right now that has been months and months long as I navigate perimenopause. And there are days when I literally cannot function, right?
Yeah.
And nourishing myself has become the biggest chore in the world. And I've gotten really, really down on myself about some of the choices that I've made around food, and finally have landed at this place of like, you know what, eating yogurt for 3 meals is actually the biggest form of self-care and functioning that I can do right now on a day like today, right?
Yeah.
Survival yogurt is a really beautiful thing that I'm offering my body. And I get to praise it, and I wrote a blessing for it and a poem for it and all of the things, right? One of my really dear friends.
Because of course you did.
Of course I did.
Like because of course you did exactly that. And I would be disappointed in my friend if that is not what you did.
Well, yeah, I'll send it to you so you can bless your survival yogurt too, and emotional support toast. Yeah. So one of my dear friends, I know we've got to wrap up too, but one of my dear friends who's also a recovery coach tells us like really beautiful story that she just titles "Throw the Fucking Salmon Away."
Yeah.
And she was talking about her early sobriety and navigating, like, she was trying to do all the things that we're conditioned to do, which is I call it the plan, which is you're not just going to let go of alcohol. You're going to let go of alcohol. You're going to change to a whole food diet. You're going to get your retirement count in order, right? You're going to change your relationships, you're going to do all the things. And she was trying to do all the things, and she was trying to not drink that day and be a good mom and feed her kids a well-balanced, nutritious dinner of roasted asparagus and salmon, right? And she was so frazzled. She was just like, I'm going to drink. I'm going to drink. And she finally dawned on her of, do I order my kids pizza and not drink tonight, or do I drink and force them to eat salmon? And she threw the whole thing in the trash and didn't drink, right? That's what compassion can look like. Anyway, awesome. I loved this conversation. Thank you.
Well, now I'm going to get teary. We're going to blame the sleep deprived. I'm really proud of you, Anne Marie.
Thank you, Gene.
The work that you're doing, like the journey that you've been on for the last 7 years and the evolution of your work and where you're landing, like when we met 25, 30 years ago, we were oil and water. Like we deserved to, no, we were oil and vinegar. We deserved to be on the same salad together, but we were oil and vinegar.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. And like the watching you navigate all of these things, being compassionate with yourself in a public way, like it just.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you're a blessing in my life. And, and I don't want to say I'm proud of you to sound patronizing, because that's not what it is. Like it's bursting with pride. Like I'm just, So
I hear you. I received that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for showing up and sharing with the community today. It really means the world to me.
My greatest pleasure. I can't wait to tune into more this afternoon. You're in the home stretch.
We got, well,
Kinda.
so it is so funny. We keep saying you're in the home stretch. Yes, that only means 4.5 more hours.
Right, exactly.
That's
Right.
all. Half a day's work. That's all we got left.
Piece of cake.
Awesomeness. Thank
Love
you, my
what you're
friend. I will
doing, and I
talk to you
love
soon.
you. Thanks,
Yep.
Gene.
Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. As you look at the screen right now, you can see a link to the entire playlist of every single conversation for previous 24 hours of tapping. There are over 120 presentations waiting for you. And please consider supporting the amazing work of the Peaceful Heart Network.